In the shadow of St. Paul's Cathedral, a small cloud of steam hangs in the air for a few moments and disappears. The cause of it comes into view. For the first time since the summer of 1967, steam services have been re-established on a weekly basis from London to the south of England. Platform 14 at Waterloo Station. A steam locomotive from Hampshire couples up to the Cathedrals Express. No one is more pleased to be back than the driver, Rodney Tizard. It's almost as if someone has turned the clock back a third of a century. That's when the last southern steam locomotives were sold for scrap. They were banned forever from the main line by British Railways. But forever is a long time, and it was BR that vanished instead. So now Rodney, an Eastleigh railwayman for 50 years, finds himself in charge of a steam express from Waterloo once again. The Cathedrals Express runs to a variety of destinations: Canterbury, Chichester, Winchester and Salisbury. 4 cathedral cities that foreign tourists want to see when they come to Britain.
For many, many years, there's not been regular steam on the network in England, and that's what makes this different. It's in the timetable. We're going somewhere every week, sometimes twice a week, from London, and so you can turn up at a major station in London like Victoria or Waterloo and go off to a cathedral city, all by steam, all the way there, all the way back. I think a lot of people who come to this country to go for a day out will be put off by hiring a car in London, you know, if they're staying there, etc. And even with the reputation of trains, they might not make the effort. But to know that they can turn up and the steam train is there especially for them and is going to go to where they want to go, I think is a huge added attraction.
Many of the people on board don't really mind where the Cathedrals Express is taking them.
It doesn't matter about where you're going. So I've booked all these trips. So Cathedral Express can take me out, feed me, very nice for the day. It's just the journey of the steam train. This is much better than diesels or electrics.
Other people have special reasons to be here. One couple are expecting a baby any day now. And if it's born on the train, everyone will be able to celebrate.
I've got 3 weeks left until I have my son, so we thought we'd better get out now while we still have the opportunity and try and carry on the long generation of steam train liking, which started with Stephen's father, and see if we can carry that on, introduce him early.
Well, we saw it advertised, or an article about it in the weekend papers a few months ago, and they have my wife is due on the 28th of June to give birth, and I tried to convince her that we should go to Bath on that day, but she wouldn't agree to that. So instead we're going to Salisbury today. We've never been on a steam train before, but it's really quite something different, and it's a great way to spend the middle of the week rather than being in the office with a glass of champagne. Very nice. So we're just having a nice day out, aren't we?
Among the passengers are a group of care workers from the Medway towns. When one of them reaches a milestone, like a 60th birthday, the other three chip in towards a day to remember.
Beautiful, yes, yeah. It's a real experience. I didn't dream it would be like this.
Quite excited.
Yes, the smell of the sulphur and the smoke, it's lovely, yes, yeah, it is.
Yeah, and the waitress is lovely. It's been beautiful, absolutely lovely. It's an experience worth having. Yeah, lovely, very, very nice.
The Cathedrals Express is run by enthusiasts who refuse to accept that decline is inevitable on Britain's railways.
If you think of the way that railways are perceived at the moment, there's a lot of negativity about, and there's very little in the railways to make you sit up and take notice. I mean, Eurostar is an attractive train, but you can't name many that would make a kid of today say, I want to go on that train. Steam does that. It has that effect. It's magical. It doesn't matter whether they've ever seen a steam engine before or even watched Thomas the Tank Engine. The first time a child sees steam, he's lured to it, or she is lured to it.
For some people, the lure of steam lasts a lifetime. Many of the older railwaymen, though nervous of going back to heavy steam locomotives, volunteered to do so. They were relieved to find that the old skills quickly came back.
It's like riding a bicycle. We did a day up on the Watercress line, driving in the morning, firing in the afternoon. And to be quite honest, 2 puffs up the chimney and we were all back home. Until it came to coming out on the main line, and it was a little bit nerve-wracking, you know, butterflies were there, one day we were going to perform. But no, it was, the memory was there, but the old skills were there, but they seemed a bit noisier and the fireboxes seemed bigger, and the coal seems dirtier than it used to be. It's, yeah, it's been great. It's been really lovely to finish my career of 10 years of steam.
Since Rodney joined the railway as a boy of 15, the mighty locomotive works at Eastleigh have changed beyond recognition. It's like a ghost town now, with abandoned rolling stock marooned in a sea of weeds. But sometimes the buddleia is brushed aside by a visiting steam loco. They come in for a check-over and a crew change. On a busy day in the 1950s, 100 steam locomotives might be moving about.
Early 50s, 1952. It was packed, solid with engines, 17 roads. Basically every road was full in the mornings. And as the day went on, of course, the shed became quieter, smoky, dirty, but a good ambience, a good amount of laughter, a good lot of fun, because we were cleaner lads then. Health and safety today would have, you know, they would have gone mad.
Rodney started at the bottom, and now he's at the top of the tree, with just a few months to go until 65 and retirement. Sometimes the engines try to misbehave, but he's ready for it. A conductor orchestrating a symphony of sound.
Up at the front there, yes, there's a fantastic piece of engineering which in itself was created by a designer without any aid of computers and so on, out of his own head. Now, up there, you've got a crew of 2 working together as a team, and if that guy is not firing the boiler correctly and the driver is not using the available steam correctly, it doesn't work. So it's absolutely a human thing as well as a machine. And I'm totally certain that's what the attraction is that not only is the engine itself like a living, breathing thing, so is the actual thing that makes it work. It is the human up there making it work.
The passengers have had a leisurely lunch on the way down from London. They'll be able to explore Salisbury for about 4 hours before heading back in the early evening with dinner on the way. The 4 cathedral cities, Salisbury, Winchester, Canterbury and Chichester, are just the right distance from London for a day out. Rodney brings the Cathedrals Express to a standstill bang on time at Salisbury. He's finishing his railway career in style, but is glad to be going. Things aren't what they were.
Sad to lose my workmates because it's been such a laugh. I really can't take it seriously. But I've had enough of working for the modern railway. Things are beginning to get off-putting. I feel like a poacher. I've got one eye over one shoulder and one eye over the other to see who's spying on us, to see who's going to catch us out. It's not the way I hoped I'd finish. Drivers used to say, "You'll be all right, my son, you'll have a good job one day." Well, I didn't know I had it, but I think I did.
His last duty today is to park the locomotive in a quiet siding. Another crew will take over. And in the meantime, the engine can be watered and cooled. This is done by volunteers, whose behind-the-scenes efforts keep it all going. The Salisbury trip was the day before the general election, when there was much talk from the politicians about a better future. However, many of those aboard the Cathedrals Express believe things aren't getting better in Britain.
I think there's no doubt about that. I don't want to sound like a politician because it's not back to basics, but it is back to civilization, back to people just being allowed to enjoy a leisurely day at their pace and being treated properly.
Some things simply weren't meant to disappear. 50 years ago, a single-minded man set about saving a few things he thought we'd be rather glad of in the 21st century. On a wooded hill in Hampshire, he spent half a lifetime building a fairground, and then he handed it over to the people to enjoy. But this is no ordinary fairground. The rides are all antiques, and everything works by steam, just like it used to in years gone by. And why not throw in a few steam railways as well, to carry people between the rides? Steam can be used in different ways, including generating electricity for the more modern rides. What rose up in the woods near Liphook became known as the Hollycombe Steam Collection. It's only open on Sunday afternoons in the summer and on some bank holidays. It's recognised as one of the most important historic fairground collections in the world, an absolute mecca for steam enthusiasts.
I think it's important to preserve the engines themselves in their actual working conditions, which is what I've always, this is perhaps where I've been different to many others. I wanted to have the engines actually doing what they originally did. I feel that's very important. It makes them so much more interesting. It's very hard, I think, for anyone to go into a museum where the engine is static, beautifully painted, in a special atmosphere, but not doing anything. Very hard to imagine what it was like or what it did. But if you actually see them working, and if you can go on them even better, that gives you some impression. And I'm sure that helps, particularly with children, to enjoy it and understand it.
Okay, I'm ready.
There's a full-size railway right through the middle of it, using an engine that spent its working life in the naval dockyard at Chatham. In retirement, it's working harder than ever. The gradient is 1 in 37, which is about the limit for a normal steam engine. Everything here is ancient, yet it all seems to work.
In many ways, they're better than a car. You know, you don't have to give them a 10,000 mile service. It's a little bit here and there, and there's an old adage that if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
The steam fairground has its origins in agriculture. Rustic engines that were towed by horses could turn their hand to anything, including roundabouts. Later on came the showman's engines. This is the oldest one working. Some rides had their own built-in steam engines.
Well, the fairground itself goes back before Roman times entertainment. With the mechanical or the industrial revolution, produced these wonderful things called steam engines, and when they managed to get them small enough to go into the rides, they could put a small portable steam engine right in the middle of what was essentially a hand-crank ride at that time and drive it by steam. Now, this was all happening around about the 1870s, and at the same time they were getting self-moving engines, because up to this time all the fairground rides were hauled by horses. And once you got something steam-driven that could move and pull these, what were fairly heavy loads, 30 tons, around the place, then they started producing things similar to this engine, the showman's engine, that could do the main of the work and replace the horses. Then, when electricity came on the scene, the showman really jumped on this. We can start lighting and illuminating the fairground, because before it was just perhaps naphtha flare lamps, paraffin lamps and things like that. And so they put a generator on the front of the engine, drive it off the belt, and they would be able to illuminate the fairground.
Soon every village in England looked forward to the arrival of the travelling steam fair. The gallopers never changed much, apart from losing that central chimney after the First World War, when diesel and petrol engines took over. It seemed that the fun of the fair would never end. But its downfall came quite quickly, and from an unexpected source: moving pictures. Local cinemas changed the entertainment world forever. Travelling showmen gave up, often torching the whole worthless lot, which is why surviving artefacts are so important. As are Hollycombe's little railways, like this narrow gauge one, whose engines came from the Welsh slate mines, and whose carriages were from Ramsgate in Kent.
The two steam locos on the narrow gauge both came from the Dinorwic quarries in North Wales, a very famous slate quarry, as did most of the track. And the stock came from the Ramsgate Electric Railway, which is run through a tunnel at Ramsgate before the war. It was closed during the war. We've got some of the stock here, we've got 5 coaches here, and there are some other survivors with Hampshire Narrowgauge Society.
One of the unusual and slightly surreal things about Hollycombe is its woodland setting. You might expect to meet a mountain biker or horse rider in this sort of countryside, but you'd hardly expect several different varieties of train. One route goes right round the hill, with glimpses of the South Downs in the distance. It's a woodland path with railway lines. There's a farm as well, also steam-powered, so the resident Shire horses have fallen on their feet. Why did Commander Baldock preserve all this, and then hand it over as a charitable venture? It was partly because he wanted future generations to understand that most British of inventions, the steam engine. He remains sad that so little is done to preserve our recent history. It's almost as though Britain is ashamed of its former greatness.
We had the best railways in the world, which is rather a contrast to today. We had the best shipbuilding yards in the world without doubt, and built magnificent ships and enormous quantities of them. British tramp steamers with a triple expansion steam engine were found in every little creek and harbour in the world, trading. And steam just drove the whole nation forward. It gave the power to everything, to the looms and the mines and the mills and the railways and the ships, the whole lot.